Okay. Go ahead.
What do you have planned for our football team this year?
Well, I have planned this year for the football team. I believe the biggest thing is creating a level of excitement. And we're trying to build that excitement, not only football team, but community-wide, so school-wide. I want to make a program that the school and community can be proud of. So that's a lot of different things that go into that. But so we've got a lot of things, exciting things that are coming up. But certainly we want to win.
Yeah.
But there's a process that goes into that. So that's what we're working on now.
What was your old school's record before you were there, and how did it change when you took the job?
Yeah, I'm coming from Westbrook High School and in Beaumont, and Westbrook's a storied program. Basically, if you've ever seen Remember the Titans, that's the school history. They integrated the school in '82 and went 1-4, and actually went on after that to win the state championship in 5A at the time, the largest classification. And so they've got a big history, but had kind of been, I think they won 2 district games when I got there 5 years ago, and built the program from there. And this year we were 11-2, got beaten in the 3rd round of the playoffs, which actually ties the most wins in school history, even in the state championship year. And pretty much loaded with freshmen and sophomores, so they should be good for years to come.
How much experience do you have with student athletes?
I've got my experience with student athletes. I've been coaching 26 years and been a head coach for 20. This is my 20th year finishing up as a head coach. So I've got a lot of experience through those times working with different athletes of every ethnicity and socioeconomic background, and a lot of varied experiences. So in different parts of the state, from Beaumont, Houston, Clear Lake, Victoria, Central Texas, Northeast Texas, a lot of different areas that I've been exposed to work with young men and women.
Are you able to call a D1 college head coach to get a look for a player?
Absolutely, I can call. As far as contacting college coaches, I will say this: the past 2 years at the 6A program that I'm coming from, every senior football player that expressed an interest in playing college football has an offer this year and last year. So last year that was 13 that expressed an interest, and this year it's 15 that they'll sign this year. So in fact, Kevin Sumlin will be there, I believe, today, and which, obviously Kevin Sumlin's the head coach of the greatest college maybe in the nation, but certainly in Texas, as we all know, Texas A&M. So no bias there.
What is your plan with your off-season program?
Our off-season program is based around, there is an off-season where you're not in season, but at the same time, there is a continual football season, it's a continual year-round process. So for us, we start from the neck up. We want to get bigger, faster, and stronger like everybody else, but we've got to get the mind right. So we got to believe we can win. So our off-season program right now is very heavily built upon the mental aspect and getting the right mindset. And that's not only players, that's coaches. So our coaches, football coaches, including the middle school football coaches, are meeting every morning at 6:30. We have a staff meeting, and the first thing we do after we say a short prayer to get our minds right is we lead straight into leadership development. So we'll have a leadership story. We go into about a 5-minute leadership development skill, teaching coaches and us working together on that before we start our discussions of the next phase and where we're going. So that's the off season. Is not only the players. Sometimes we forget about the coaches too. That's when we get better.
I feel like I played football last year, and I feel like last year we had a problem with our players not fully committing themselves to the sport. And what can you do that will get the players to fully commit? Because I've seen I work out at the YMCA sometimes, and I've seen Wounds receivers, how they went to state last year. Oh yeah,
they were in our district.
Yeah, and then I see receivers practicing catching tennis balls, working out together, and this is out of school hours. It's not just we have after school workouts, but they're literally this is extra, even more than what they had, and they're doing that. And I've never seen that in Tomball.
Yeah. Well, as far as after school workouts and putting a full commitment into a program, and honestly, yes. That's one of the questions I've asked the coaches after school. Where are all the guys out playing football that are not involved in other things, or maybe they're in track? Why aren't they out here catching the ball and doing some things? And I don't see that now. So how do you develop that? It all goes back to a buy-in. And so some of the things we'll talk about is, obviously you're talking about developing a family, and that family is not blood related. That family is based on your time you spent together, working together, and I think the buy-in increases by the investment you have into it, just like anything else. If you have something that you've invested a lot of time into, then your buy-in is much greater, and that goes from year to year. So that's a culture. That's not something that's developed overnight. There's no magic answer to that. So quite honestly, that's back on the coaches, and me, that's the onus that we take in that. We've got to develop, and it goes back to leadership, and the definition of leadership, in my opinion, is it's influence based on trust that you've earned. And so as we earn that trust from the players, then they'll want to be around us more and so forth. There's an old, I think it's a Chinese proverb that says, if you think you're leading and no one's following, then you're only taking a walk. And so it's kind of the same thing with this. If we think we're leading, but nobody's out there doing the extra stuff that it takes to be successful, then we're really not leading. And so that's really what we have to do, is we've got to develop a buy-in, and it's based on trust.
What is your opinion on multi-sport athletes?
Multi-sport athletes, it's important to be involved, and it's important not only for the things you get out of athletics. I'm a big believer in athletics, first of all, not for, I think we've redirected athletics into a means of scholarships. It's really not what athletics is about. That's a byproduct. Athletics is about all the many lessons that you develop. You don't always get those in an English class or a math class or the other areas that are important in school that you get, but you get a lot of the things that make you successful in life in athletics. And the hard work, teamwork, and just many, many characteristics of successful people that you think of. So with that being said, the more involved we're in multiple athletics or multiple sports, the more opportunities that young people have to gain those characteristics. So with that being said, that's why I think it's really important that they're involved in other things, so they continue to get those characteristics. But also, it's hard to get somebody to compete as hard in an off-season setting as it is in a competitive setting playing in another sport. And competitors want to compete, they want to win, and that's the mentality we want. We want to win at everything. I want guys and girls, I want them to be trying to be valedictorian. I want them competing to do that stuff. And I want them competing. We got an ag show coming on. I want them, if they're involved, that's great. I want them competing to win. And I don't know, I never did ag. I love it. I think it's a great deal, and I'll be out there watching, but I don't know how to tell somebody, lead your cow around, your steer around more, or whatever, but they know that, and they need to compete with that to win. So I think it's really important for that aspect.
Where do you see the team next year?
Hopefully I'll see the team next year on, can you cut and edit this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I forget y'all's question. I was going to say, hopefully I'll see them on the football field every day. At least start that back over. Is there a blooper reel? I see next year's team progressing from where they were this year, and I can't guarantee, I'm not going to come in and say we're going to win a state championship. And we don't even talk about state championships. That's not what we do. Everybody kind of hears of Nick Saban's philosophy, and I guess in some respects, I kind of have the same philosophy, and I do a lot of stuff based on Urban Meyer's and different things. It's really not about talking about state championships. It's about the process. And so where I see us next year is individually, and we'll talk about 9 units strong. Every unit will be in that group will be strong, and so we'll work on every unit being stronger as young men, as men of character, on the field, and all those things. So that's our goal. I see us being better people, and along with that, the byproduct is being better players and a better team because of that. How that translates into wins and losses, I don't know. Nobody really knows that until you begin. But I definitely see that as being our main focus and purpose.
I'll throw one in. Somebody had asked me about this, and you were on a similar topic. One thing the team has been doing is a lot of community programs and stuff like that. Do you anticipate something like that continuing, a lot of community involvement type efforts and stuff like that?
We'll do a lot of, we'll be very involved in the community. And I think, one of the things we have to do is It doesn't take me long to buy in. I'm kind of that guy. And so, I love the Tomball Red. That's what this is. And so Red Nation and all that stuff. I love that stuff. Nothing I like doing more than hashtagging Red Nation or Red Nation Rising. I think that's good stuff. And but yes, to do that, it's that culture we talked about, and that culture is developed from when you start young, and that'll be involved in whether it's football players going to the different schools to open car doors in the morning to let the kids out, welcome them to school in their uniforms. To we'll have bleacher creatures, which we'll have hundreds of kids at the football game that will lead the team out on the field through the tunnel, and I'm assuming we have a tunnel and stuff. I don't know, maybe we don't. I'll figure all that out later on. But they'll come out, and it's a cool thing. They'll be waving little towels and running, and what I want is I want them to buy in as much as I do and our players do of being a Cougar and being about Tomball. And so that starts when they're young, and that starts through community service. And the greatest attribute, one of the greatest leaders that's ever been in any time in the history of the world was a servant leader. And obviously I'm talking about the carpenter from Galilee, but he was a servant. He didn't want to be a king and rule. He wanted to be somebody that was a servant to everyone around him. And so that's what our players have to understand. If you want to be leaders, you have to be servants first. So we will definitely be involved in the community and community service.
After seeing our players, what do you think, like our size, our speed, like compared to other schools, how do you compare us to other schools?
I compare our size and speed. There's certainly schools that we're going to be bigger than. There's going to be schools that we're not as big in, and the same thing with speed-wise. Are those the most important factors? I think it's about, and all of us can think of many stories of an undersized individual winning a battle based on what's inside. And so for me, that's the biggest thing. It's really not about, we'll have a great we'll have the best strength and conditioning program anywhere around. That's going to happen. But alongside that mindset that we talked about, again, 90% of the victory or more is going to be won from the neck up. And so that doesn't depend on size and speed and strength and all those things. That depends on where you are in your belief level and your effort level and all the intangibles that will go in there. So absolutely, that's going to be a big part of it. So that's why I see us getting better and beating other people.
How do you define a successful season?
A successful season is, again, it goes into the growth and development of the individuals. And you have to know your purpose. And so we'll talk to our players, same thing I'm talking to coaches about right now, about what's your purpose. And don't pursue a passion. Too many people get caught up in pursuing a passion. It's really not what it's about. You need to determine your purpose and then passionately pursue your purpose. And so with that in mind, and determining for me what the purpose is, my purpose is to make our players successful in life. And that's through all the lessons we teach. And so that's what I see the success, and that's what I base the success on. If we're putting out good citizens and leaders in the school and the community, and we're putting out people that are volunteering and involved, and really, in the football setting, I want to produce good dads, and I want to produce great husbands, and great employees, great community members. And if we're doing that, we're successful. And I firmly believe every place I've ever coached, we've won. And that's not about me at all. But that's about the buy-in and the fact that successful people are successful in more than just wins and losses on the field or in other areas. But it's a byproduct, and they win. Winners win. And so we want to develop winners in all areas. So that's what I base success on. I really don't worry about the record that much. It takes care of itself. We worry about the little things. We worry about the process leading up to that success. And so that's what I measure it in. Sometimes that's harder to measure than the wins and losses are cutting dry.
One last question real quick. Coaching staff, has that been determined yet as far as who's doing what?
Coaching staff is right now, what I'm doing in my first week here is, this is really day 3. And so I'm in the process now of meeting with every football coach and every head coach of every other sport and really just getting to know them and how can I help them and talking learning about them and making sure that they feel comfortable being able to come into me and talk and let me know how I can help them. And so still trying to fit that as I learn that, to figure out where different people fit. Obviously, I'm bringing in a strength and conditioning coach, which is, I believe he's the best anywhere, the best I've ever been around, and I've been fortunate to be around some good ones. My last one's at the University of Tennessee, and this one's better, hands down. And so we've been around some really good ones, and he's really special as far as our development in a lot of different areas. So I do have a couple of guys that are coming in, and then working with who we have here on staff. There's good coaches here. They've done a good job. They care about kids, want to work. We just need to evaluate how to get better and evaluate ourselves. So that's what we're in the process of doing now. And so I don't have any plans. I'm not a guy that fires people and stuff. It's not the plan. The plan is to work with the people we have that have kids' best interests at heart, and let's go forward and figure out how to take that and be successful.
I guess something, I don't know if the kids really knows this, but you're also athletic director for the rest of the sports programs too. So how much does that occupy your time, having to oversee, a pretty busy program here?
Yeah, campus coordinator is a title that I've been doing the last 5 years in a multi-school district with a district athletic director like we have here. And so prior to that, for 15 years, I was the athletic director and the head football coach at 3 different schools. And so kind of learned from that basis where you kind of do it all. So it's nice to have somebody to help in that regard in the athletic director role. And, but yeah, it does, there's an emphasis. It's not just football. And people get tied up, though, it's just football, coach. Well, there's a lot of other things. And again, it goes back to, I want to be successful in everything. I want to win. And, I just finished meeting with a track coach, and we talked about track is the basis for all sports. And I want to go to track meets, and I want to win. Girls, boys, all of it. And so, that's what I want to do. And again, for me, that's about not telling a coach how to run his program. That's about how do I help you and achieve what you want to achieve and make sure that you have the best opportunity to do that. And that goes back to that serving part of it. So it is time consuming. There's paperwork. There's other things that are involved in that. But it's part of the job, and it's an exciting part. When you're building a program, that's kind of what you want to do, is be involved in all aspects. I heard the other day Donald Trump on his inauguration wanted to know the color of the napkins on the tables. So, but that's a business mentality of want to know every single thing. I can assure you, Nick Saban knows probably the color of the napkins at the banquet and everything else, detail oriented. So I want to be involved, and I want to know all that stuff, and be able to help in every way I can.
Okay. Go good?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, y'all have a lot